Okay, hello everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank Anthony and Achilles for me to have a presentation and for encouragement and inspiration to refine my thought. And my name is Byong-jin. You could call me ABJ, and from Kyung University, Seoul, South Korea. And my specialty is American politics and Korean politics as well. Today, my main topic is going to be about fourth branch of government. It goes beyond the legislative, executive, and judicial branch of conventional democracy. That's my main topic, and my subtitle is Politics of Long-Termism. What I mean by that, actually, it's long-termism, but we need to act right now. It's not just a long-term task, it's an urgent task because democracy everywhere is dysfunctional nowadays. So I think this kind of new innovative thinking might be a very urgent, I think. Okay, let me begin by my favorite phrase by Alexis Tocqueville, French thinker, of course. And human spirit wanders in darkness because past no longer shine the light for the future. And Tocqueville's words have never been so relevant and they are now. I think that also applies to in these days. Past does not shine to the future, especially when it comes to climate and AI. So my main question is like as follows. Can democracy meet the urgent challenge of climate and AI? The coming wave, actually, according to the great research professor whose name is Rockstrom and Sharon Hoover in Potsdam Institute, that is most prestigious institute in the world. They warn us about tipping point of climate catastrophe, right? And as far as I remember, a few days ago, Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General, warned us humanity open the gate of hell. So it's so scary. And also, according to Mo Gadet, he's a former head of the new development in Google X. And Mustafa Sherman, I think, the founder of the DeepMind, they both won the point of no return in big gap between human intelligence and AI. They even go so far as to predict that in 2040 something, comparison between human intelligence and AI is like a fly versus Einstein. It might be a little bit exaggerating, but that's a very scary scenario. So what I'm saying here is we need a Green New Deal globally, but it's just economic alternative. Without fixing democracy, just economic alternative is not enough. We need some kind of political imagination. And also, we need to reform democracy. As Andrea Colom mentioned, we need to be more civic engagement. And also, at the same time, we need to go beyond previous model of democracy. So let me briefly remind you, what is liberal constitutional democracy anyway? It's democracy means, as far as I remember, according to ancient Greece, deme. Deme means the member of the tribe. Of course, it's only about human belonging. And rule of law is also within human community. And liberal view of human right, of course, is Anthropocene, just the human right? It's important, but we need to go beyond. I have to admit that modern democracy is a great accomplishment. I'm big fan of Madison, Jefferson, and Hamilton. they invented modern democracy. And it's also great in terms of balance between the common, ordinary people, and the wise, House and Senate, that sort of thing, right? And check and balance thing, that's great accomplishment. But I think we need to admit some limitation in liberal democracy. The frequent encounter with vetocracy, the Francis Fukuyama coined that word, right? And also, current politicians only mainly protect current constituency who live in present, right? Not because they are bad person, no, just the structural limitation of liberal democracy. And also, we need to extend representation. Representation is open. We need to include more climate refugees and more people who are excluded. So, for example, Greta Thunberg asked us a question. Do we have really the wise in these days? She's so critical about us. I don't think Senate in United States, some people are great, but overall, they are not that wise. And several years ago, the great book was published, titled They Knew. According to that book, since 1960, no matter what, Republican administration or Democrat administration, both, they already knew severity of climate crisis, but they couldn't act. They couldn't act in fundamental ways, unfortunately. So I think we need bold social fiction. It's a scary scenario, but I argue that ecofascism looms. Already it looms. The regime that used the climate as an excuse for autocratic rule, and that's kind of climate leviathan. That's so scary, and we need new narrative. Without new narrative, we cannot have innovative democracy. Also, as Andrea and Colum mentioned, education is very essential. And by having that kind of experience, we could have a new education, new civic education for 21st century. It's kind of social capital formation, as Robert Putnam in Harvard mentioned. And I'm not talking about radically new idea. It's been a long time since these kind of imagination, for decades, we just turned a blind eye. Especially, I'd like to underscore two great thinkers in 20th century civilization. Hans Jonas, who was a professor at New School for Social Research in Manhattan. I was studying there, and he underscored, we need to go beyond Kant's neighbor ethics. Neighbor ethics is very important, but we need to go beyond. We need to have a new ethic for the future as well. And also, Thomas Berry, a Canadian father, his book, Dream of the Earth, is one of the essential books for the new civilization, and he actually doubts the Anthropocene concept of democracy. And their three values, diversity of all life, harmony of East and West. What I'm saying here is, I admire liberal constitutional democracy, but it's kind of evolved. It has to be evolved. And it has to incorporate Native American insight and Latin American insight, and also has to incorporate Confucian constitutionalism, that sort of thing. It needs to evolve. And sustainably, that sort of thing. And so what I'm saying here is we need to radically extend liberal democracy based on precautionary principle and long-termism. Since Rio conference, everybody talking about the precautionary principle, right? So we need to put that in action in democratic operation. So I think we need to establish the fourth branch I'm not talking about the media. Usually in conventional, when we are talking about fourth branch, we are talking about media. But here, I'm talking about new legislative body as a future deliberative body and commitment to protect the future communities. So role of the fourth branch is acting guardian of the future human and also non-human species. You know what? Even Mogadet in Google X that I mentioned, he underscored we need to represent even AI. I mean, not bad AI, I mean good AI. So we need to radically new imagination and also monitor, assess policy of so-called presentism. And even having veto power over serious damage to the future. And making laws for ecological sustainability. And actually, I'm currently writing a book. I'm almost finishing, maybe in December. But here, just the main institutional mechanism would be like this: appointing trustee and citizen juror bilaterally. What I mean by trustee, if you think about the example of when child became orphan, some trustee has to represent his or her interest until they reach adulthood, right? So that kind of trustee could have a role in the representing the globe who cannot speak themselves, or a river, or a forest, and establishing permanent body and many ecological workshop for the citizen juror. The great ecological thinker Joanna Macy once coined that kind of workshop. Almost I'm finishing, and maybe my idea is too idealistic. Some people might say this kind of science fiction. But as William Gibson said, future is already here. Already in globally, a lot of pioneering example is around the globe. Future Generation Commission for Ways, insightful experience for future generation. And the corporation already has a legal status. It's a corporation has a legal status, so Earth can have also legal status. And in New Zealand, Whanganui River already has a trustee. So my idea is not that revolutionary. Already there are a lot of Ecuador, UN Earth Charter. If you happen to read the Earth Charter, it's a beautiful charter, especially when it comes to preamble. It has everything. And UN branch harmony with nature, and even one business company in London, so-called River Simple Company, has Earth trustee in their boarding member. But I have to admit there are a lot of tricky issues. Kind of constitutional framework might be very, very difficult. It's uphill battle. And who choose trustee? Can you believe trustee and juror? That sort of thing. But I'm going to elaborate the detail of specific mechanism in my book. But I'm not a kind of idealist, just floating over the abstract idea. We need to be very practically minded. So in academia, we call policy diffusion. We need to start in initial step more practically. Future deliberation commission in local or central or even transnational. It's just kind of advisory board. And if we manage to be successful in constitutional amendment, we could have a more authoritative body. And eventually, we could expand to every decision-making body. Legislative, judicial, even NGO, even university, boarding member, business, everywhere. We could have that kind of future deliberation body. So we need new transformative politics. So mobilizing at the domestic level and various horizontal and vertical diffusion, especially we need pioneer who is a kind of a green democratic state. They need to be kind of pioneering role, leadership role. That's what I'm trying to say. And after this conference, I'm going to finish my book when I come back to Seoul. And here, I'm with my 3 students from political school, young generation. They are excellent activists. And after conference, we're going to do follow-up. So when you happen to meet our activists, just have I hope, a lot of conversation. I'm going to finish by quoting my favorite. I'm a big fan of Václav Havel. The salvation of this human world lies nowhere else than in the human heart, in the human power to reflect, in human modesty and human responsibility. So we need to really broaden our perspective, and let's make impossible project possible. Thank you.